morning, everyone. In our last class, we have discussed about effective atomic number that is proposed by Sedgwick. And according to atomic effective number or EAN theory, we can predict the stability of the given complex compound or complex ion. Okay. Next, move on to next theory, that is valency bond theory. So this is also known as VBT theory. And already in our intermediate second year, first year here in the intermediate first year, we have studied about the valence bond theory. Okay, so here also same things we are going to be discussed, but in somewhat in elaborated manner. Okay, so what is valency bond theory? So valency bond theory is based on covalent interaction between the central metal atom and ligand. So before this theory, we assumed that a coordinate covalent bond or dative bond is formed between central metal atom or ion or and ligand. But according to this theory, so now the bond between ligand and central metal atom or ion is what? Covalent bond. Okay. So according to VBT, there is a direct covalent coordinates bond between ligand and central metal atom or ion. And next, see second thing. So when we are discussing about the covalent bond, so the covalent bond generally accompanies with hybridization. So generally, we already know very well about the hybridization. So the overlapping of hybridized orbital results sigma bond, and so that is linear overlapping of hybridized orbital, and lateral overlapping of unhybridized orbital results pi bond. So regarding sigma bond and pi bond, already we have studied in last year, that is in our first year, first semester. So out of these two bonds, which is stable, which is stronger? Sigma bond is stronger. Why? Because linear overlapping results, uh, linear overlapping of hybridized orbital results sigma bond. So here also same type of hybridization we can expect here. Okay, let's move on to next point. The central metal ion lose a fixed number of electrons, thus creating vacant orbital and increasing the Jeff. That means force of attraction exerted by the nucleus of a central metal ion. So as we know that in previous class also we have discussed about that. When a metal, the general property, characteristic property of a metal is losing of electron, and that is also known as electropositivity. When a atom lose an electron, it obviously gets the positive charge. If it lose one electron, it will get one positive charge. For suppose if any atom loses two electrons, then that atom gets or gains two positive charges. So that means the number of positive charges always equals to number of lost electron by atom. So here also by losing these electrons, the atom becomes what? Ion. So when it becomes ion, it accompanies what? Creating vacant orbital. So for example, generally when one atom lose a electron, so then what happens? That particular that orbital in which that electron is present, that becomes vacant. Okay, so generally where electrons are present? Orbitals. Okay, so when the orbital when the electron is loose, then what happens? That orbital becomes vacant. Okay, so what he states that when the central metal atom lose a fixed number of electrons, thus creating vacant orbitals. So that in turn that provides what? So force of attraction, force of attraction. Next, this facilitates the gain of electron pair by the central metal atom from the various ligands. So that means when the central metal atom, after losing electron, it becomes a central metal ion. So the central metal ion possesses what? Vacant orbital. Now the ligand, what is the role or what is the property of ligand? Generally, it donates lone pair of electrons. Those lone pair of electrons are generally um, accommodated in the vacant orbitals. So this point stated. So when the atom loses electron, so that facilitates what? Vacant orbital. So this facilitates. So that means creating vacant orbitals. This facilitates the gain of electron pair. That facilitates what? Gaining of electron pair from whom? Ligand. By whom? Central metal atom. from various ligands. Since a greater force of attraction of the nucleus pulls the ligand towards itself. So here see, so whenever uh, electrons are donated by ligand to the central metal atom, then what happened? The distance between those two species maybe decreases. So in turn, we can say that attraction arises between those two species. So which one? One is central metal ion, second one is donor. Donor means ligand. The vacant orbitals hybridizes to form new hybridized orbital equal to number of electron pairs to be accepted. So that is what coordination number, rightfully if we say, rightfully called steric number also. So that means if we the coordination number is also be known as steric number. So here see whose orbitals are going to be hybridized. So particularly central metal atom or ions. That atoms, which atoms? Outermost atom, outermost shell orbitals of central metal atom or ion will be hybridized. Okay. So the vacant orbitals. So vacant orbitals means what? Particularly present in what? Central metal atom. So those will be hybridized to form a new hybridized orbital, and the number of new hybridized orbital is always equals to the number of electrons pair to be accepted. So that means, so for example, if any species which has 6 vacant orbital means it can accept how many pair of electrons? 6 pair of electrons. So that means what is the coordination number? 6 coordination number. Thus, the coordination number is the one of the major factor deciding the geometry of a complex ion with the nature of the ligand. So here see previous two theories doesn't explain about the geometry, that means the shape of the complex compound. But the advantage of this VBT is by considering the hybridization of central metal atom or ion, we can predict the geometry. So that means the geometry is influenced or affected by whom? This one. What? Nature of ligand. So this nature of ligand will decide the geometry of complex compound. Next, a strong ligand can alter the configuration of the core and the central metal atom ion by the causing forced pairing against Hund's rules of maximum multiplicity. Okay, so that means here see if we have strong field of ligand, so that means according to VBT we have two types of ligands. One is strong field ligand, the second one is weak field ligand. So how he classified the ligands into two field based on their strength to pair up the electrons of central metal atom or ion. So that to be which electron? Core electrons as well as valence electron. So what is the difference between the core electron and valence electron? Valence electrons are generally present in outermost shell, whereas core electrons are electrons present in inner shell. Inner shell. So that means here if you consider a transition metal, so the general electronic configuration of transition metal is what? N minus 1 D 1 to 10 Ns2 Np6. Got it? So Ns2 Np6 is the outermost shell. So the whatever electron present in Ns2 Np6, those are considered as valence electron. But whereas the electrons present in N minus 1 D, those considered as core electrons. Got it? So now the ligand has the capability or capacity to pair up the unpaired electrons of core as well as valency. So that is against to whom? Whom rule? Hund's rule. That is against to Hund's rule of maximum multiplicity. Next, whereas weak ligands cannot alter the configuration. Configuration means they cannot be pair up the unpaired electrons of central metal atom. So here we have some examples of strong field ligands and weak field ligands. The Cn minus, that is cyanide, carbonyl, ethyl diamine, ammonia, water, NO, pyridine. So particularly these first two. So these first two are generally considered as strong field ligands. So these first two can easily change the electronic configuration of central metal ion. And these are weak field ligands. So here see here onwards ethylene diamine, we can find ethylene diamine here here. So actually this is the decreasing order of uh, field strength of ligand. So actually this is the decreasing order of the field strength of here, and here increasing order. From here increasing order, and here this is decreasing order actually. Okay. Next, when the inner d orbital, that is n minus d orbitals, are used in hybridization, the complex is called inner orbital hybridization, or spin or hyperligated complex. So see, uh, when uh, when the n minus 1d orbital. So for example, if you take iron, the general electronic configuration of iron is 26, and general electronic configuration is 4s2 4p6 3d6. Sorry, ns2. Sorry, 3d6 ns2. Okay, 3d6 ns2. 3d6 ns2. So here, if this 3d orbital, the 3d orbital is considered as core orbital, and whereas 4s and 4p orbitals are outermost shell. That means we can consider electrons whatever present in those orbitals are valency electrons. So n minus 1, that means 3d orbital, if that is used in hybridization, so that results what? Inner orbitals, and we can say low spin. So low spin compounds, low spin, low spin, or we can say hyperligated complex. A substance which do not contain any unpaired electrons in it is not attracted by two magnets. So that means he pointing towards the magnetism. So actually we have generally we can classify the atom metals into three types on the basis of their magnetism: ferromagnets, paramagnets, and diamagnets. So broadly we can classify the metals into three categories on the basis of magnetic property. So the are the metal which do not have unpaired electrons. So that is considered as a diamagnet. So that means that cannot attracted by a magnet. So such are known as diamagnet. And on the other hand, the substance which contains one or more unpaired electrons in the d orbital is attracted by magnetic field, or you can say two magnets, or can be considered as para. So this one is diamagnetic, and this one is paramagnetic. So see, earlier theories doesn't explain about the geometry as well as magnetism. So the advantage, or we can say post importance, or post advantage of, or maybe we can say merits of this valency bond theory is it explains the geometry of complex compound as well as its magnetism. Okay, so generally magnetism is attributed in case of transition elements due to only unpaired number of electrons of valency shell. So actually, if you consider the magnetism arises due to the two quantum numbers. One is spin quantum number of electrons, second one is angular momentum of orbital. Okay, so the spin quantum is S, and second one is angular momentum, that is known as L. But here, see, angular momentum is nullified. Why? Because the orbitals doesn't shield the d electrons from ligand effect. So that's why the L is nullified or negligible. So that means magnetism purely depends on only spin quantum number of electrons. So the spin quantum of electron, if you consider the magnetism from spin quantum to in terms of number of unpaired electrons, then the magnetism mu s is equal to square root of n into n plus 2, where mu is the magnetic quantum number. So actually CRC, this is the formula where generally uh, S is the spin value and N is the number of unpaired electrons. So if you consider the magnetism with respect to this spin quantum number or spin S, then this formula becomes as S into S plus 1. Okay. So but where now that is already we have studied in uh, lanthanides and actinides also. But here the magnetism is of this transition elements is expressed in terms of number of unpaired electrons. Okay, not in terms of spin quantum number. So that's why this magnetism formula is converted into square root of n into n plus 2, where n is equal to number of unpaired electrons. For example, if n is equal to 1, then its magnetism is how much? 1.73. If n is equal to 3, then its magnetism is 3.87, so on. Next, on the basis of value of magnetic moment, that is mu, we can predict the number of unpaired electrons present in complex compound. So why? Because the magnetism is related to whom? Number of unpaired electrons present in d electron, d orbital. Okay. So these are the examples. So first, let me again recall the important points. So the main important points of this PBT is, first one is the orbitals of central metal atom will undergo hybridization. So number of hybridized orbitals always equals to the number of lone pair of electrons to be accepted. For example, if a central metal atom or ion is going to be take up 6 lone pair of electrons, that means the number of hybridized to be hybridized orbital should be 6. Okay, so if any central metal atom or ligand is going to accept 4 lone pair of electron, that means only how many orbitals of it to be participated in hybridization? 4. Okay, so that means the always number of hybridized orbitals number always equals to number of lone pair of electrons to be gained. Next, second one is, see, the major advantage of this one is on the basis of hybridize we can predict the geometry of complex compound. Next, second one is field strength of ligand. So we have strong field ligands and weak field ligands. And what is the role of strong field ligands? These strong field ligands can pair up the electrons of central metal atom, including valency, including which one? Core electrons. So that is against to Hund rule. So this results what? Inner hybridization. So here that results what? Inner hybridization results the inner hybridization. So that involves what? Hybridization of n minus 1 d orbital. So that is considered as inner d orbital. And that results again low spin compounds, and this phenomena is also known as hyperligated complex. And whereas weak field ligand cannot pair up the electrons. So the whatever result, that hybridization is known as outer orbital hybridization, and the resulted compound is considered as a high spin compound. Okay. Next, magnetism. So one more advantage of this theory is we can predict the magnetism. So that means we can say whether it is a diamagnet or paramagnet. And if it is paramagnet, then we can calculate its magnetic strength. Okay. So what is diamagnet? So the diamagnet is a substance in which the central metal atom do not have or does not have any unpaired electrons. So such compounds cannot be attracted by two magnets. And it is, I think you have already studied as Gauss theory in last year, I think, in first year, second semester, I think, in transition metals, Gauss theory, Guy theory. And next, other hand, the substance which has contains one or more than one unpaired electrons in its d orbital, so then it can be attracted by two magnets, and we can say that one as a paramagnet. And paramagnetism can be calculated or induced get from this formula. So what is that? Mu s is equal to square root of n into n plus 1, where n is equal to number of unpaired electrons. So this is the formula. And next, see some examples. Here, see, so nickel. So let this look at this complex NiCl4 taken minus 2. So NiCl4 minus 2. So if you calculate the oxidation state of central metal atom, that is Ni, we can get Ni plus 2. So what is the atomic number of nickel? 28. So what is the electronic configuration? Ns2 3d8. So N, that is nickel. So what is the it has last how many electrons? 2 electrons. So those 2 electrons of this s orbital will be releases, and then it has how many electrons? 3d electrons. So in the d subshell, how many orbitals do we have? 5 orbitals. So filling of orbital follows Hund's rule first. Uh, what is Hund's rule? So equal energetic orbitals first filled with single electron, then only pairing of electron takes place. So that means first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Leftover electrons are 3, 6, 7, 8. So that means out of 5 orbitals of d subshell, so the first 3 are paired and the second 2 are unpaired. So that means these are 6 and these 2 are 8. So thereby we get how many vacant orbitals? 4 vacant orbitals. What are those? 4s0 and 4p0. So here this nickel is going to take up how many electrons? 4 lone pair of electrons. So that it requires, so how many vacant orbital it requires? 4 vacant orbital. These 4 vacant orbital undergo hybridization. So what is hybridization? Similar energetic orbitals undergo or intermixing results equal number of equal energetic orbitals. Intermixing of similar atomic energetic orbitals results equal number and same energetic orbitals. So that means this 4 1s and 3p orbitals will be intermixed to result 4 sp3 orbitals. So these 4 sp3 orbitals, see here. Now each orbital of sp3, each orbital will overlap with lone pair of electrons orbital of chlorine. So the chloride, that is Cl minus, so that we get what? Uh, these 4 orbitals are filled with 8 electrons. So that means each orbital filled with 2 electrons. So what is the hybridization? sp3 hybridization. And we know that what is the shape of sp3 hybridization? Tetrahedral. And next in this complex, so this is the complex complex. Now in this complex, how many unpaired electrons do we have? 2 unpaired electrons. So when we have more than 1 unpaired electron, its magnetism is what? It is paramagnetic in nature. If you substitute those 2 in this formula, you will get to 2.78 around approximate value. So that is magnetism. So here see another, this is one more example, similar type, but here somewhat different. Why? Because here see this chlorine unable to pair up these unpaired electrons. Why? Because this chlorine belongs to weak field orbital, weak field ligands. This chlorine belongs to weak field ligands. Whereas see, next example we are looking at carbonyl. So carbonyl is a strong field ligand. So here in this example, NiCO4. So CO carbonyl is a neutral, so that's why nickel not going to be not going to be get any charge. So the oxidation state of nickel is Ni0. So in the case of Ni0, the atomic the electronic configuration is Ns2 3d8. Ns2 3d8. So 4s2 3d8. Next, and the cobalt is a strong field ligand. So generally strong field ligand promotes what? Pairing of electrons according to against the Hund rule. So the 2 electrons of s orbital will be distributed between here and here. So this is dx square minus y square and dz square. So thereby what happened? These 5 orbitals is the 5 orbitals were filled with 10 electrons. Now this s orbital becomes vacant. Now it is going to be overlapped with how many carbonyl? 4 carbonyls. So so that means how many orbitals we do require for hybridization? 4. So 1s and 3p. So what is the hybridization? H2, like this. Okay, again we got what? Tetrahedral. But see, up to here same, up to here same, first and third, up to here same. Okay, but what is the difference here? See, magnetism. It is a diamagnetic. Why? Because in its outermost d orbital, there are no unpaired electrons. There are no unpaired electrons. So that is the difference. Okay. Now come to second example. This is NiCN4 plus 2. So in case of this compound, what is the oxidation state of nickel? Plus 2. So plus 2 means its outermost electronic configuration may be 3d8, 4s0, 4p0. But we have Cn minus. Cn minus is what? Strong field ligand. So this strong field ligand, what do it do? It pair up the unpaired electron. So that means this electron will be coming into, so this electron will be coming into this orbital. So that accompanies what? That created vacant d orbital, one vacant d orbital. So now here, how many vacant orbitals we require? 4. Why? So here this nickel is going to taken up 4 lone pair of electrons. So that means we require 4 orbitals. One is d orbital, one is s orbital, and 2 p orbitals. So now one d, s, and 2 p orbitals will be intermixed. So that hybridization is known as dsp2. When the hybridization is changed from sp3 to dsp2, its shape also going to be changed. So its shape may be distorted or changed from tetrahedral to square plate. And next come to magnetism. Again, it is a diamagnet. Why? Because in its outermost shell, it do not have any unpaired electrons. So that's why its its magnetism is what? Diamagnet. Okay. So next one, and very important, and here ammonia. Again, this complex carry +2. So that means what is the charge of nickel? Nickel +2. So the general electronic configuration of nickel +2 is 3d8, 4s0, 4p0. And next, what is the nature of ammonia? Again, in presence of particularly nickel and cobalt, this ammonia acts as a strong field ligand, whereas in presence of another metal atoms, it will act as a weak field ligand. Okay, remember this. Now this ammonia pair up this electron, so that accompanies it doesn't pair up the electron. So ammonia, in case of cobalt and chromium, this ammonia acts as a strong field ligand. Okay, okay, and here see, and how many null pair of electrons is going to be taken up? 6. So that means it require how many vacant orbital? 6 vacant orbital. So, but this ammonia is a weak field ligand, so that's why it does not do not pair up these electrons. So we require how many vacant orbitals? 6 vacant orbitals. So how we can get 6 vacant orbital? So one from 4s, 3 from 4p, and 2 from 4d. Here see, 4d is going to be participate in hybridization. 4d up to here 3d. So in this case 3d is participated in hybridization. So this hybridization is known as inner hybridization, and the compound resulted by inner hybridization is known as low spin. Low spin. Why? Because almost your spin is 0. Why? Because all electrons are paired up. Okay, so this is plus of clockwise, and second one is anti-clockwise minus of. If you sum up plus of plus minus of 0. So that's why it is considered as low spin compound. When the outer d orbital, this is outer 4d, this is inner 3d, n minus 1d. Here see n is outermost shell, n is equal to 4, and here see 1 s orbital, 3 p orbitals, and 2 d orbitals. So all are n, ns, np, nd. So nd means outer orbital. So now that result sp3d2 come, sp3d2. So this hybridization is known as outer hybridization, and the outer hybridization results high spin complex. So here see high spin complex. Why? Because plus of how much? 1. Spin how much? 1. And next, what is the shape? So when the hybridization is changed, then shape also changes. So it is octahedral. And how many unpaired electrons do it has? 2 unpaired electrons. So it's when it has more than 1 unpaired electrons, its magnetism is paramagnetism. If you substitute these two in square root of n into n plus 2 formula, you make it approximately 2.7. Okay. So tomorrow we will discuss remaining. Thank you.